She's all right when you get to know her. This is my podcast, and it takes you from your restrictive, toxic, life-limiting 9 to 5 into a life on your terms, full of freedom and flexibility as a self-employed virtual assistant. So whether this is your first introduction into the possibility of becoming a VA, or perhaps you've been doing a bit of Googling already, I'm going to get rid of the overwhelm, rid of the self-doubt, and show you that this life is possible. I've not just started this rodeo, you know. I'm Catherine Gladwyn, and I've been doing what you think is impossible since 2015. Shall we get started? Just so you're not confused with how this podcast episode starts, I always hit the record button before we go into the actual episode content, if you like. And I thought I'd add this one in because we have a bit of a giggle and you can see how things work. You join us just as we were talking about being on busy Zoom calls. I'm always looking at other people as well if it's a busy one. I'm thinking,
Yeah, see what everyone's doing. Are they interested? What's everyone thinking?
yeah, is she really led on her settee?
Yeah. What is that in the background?
Yeah. Does her husband know that she's on a call? Because those pants really have seen better days.
Yeah, all of those things.
But you're okay.
I'm fine, yes, thank you. I'm going to turn my camera off because I feel weird talking to myself. There we go.
Sorry.
That's all right.
It also helps with the sound quality because it's not then trying to compete between the image and the audio then.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I don't do those video podcasts because it winds me up when all you can see the host doing is just nodding like a bloody donkey.
Sat there in polite agreement with everything that the guest is saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it? So you've had the questions, and what I'll do is I plan to go through those. Sometimes they evolve,
Yeah.
and sometimes we don't need to mention them because we've mentioned it in another way, or it just doesn't flow in that way. I will try and bring them in. Like I said to you before, if I ever ask you anything and you're just not comfortable answering it, then just say, and that bit won't go in the final version at all.
Okay.
I will send you the edited version as soon as I've done it for you to approve.
Okay.
And then, yeah, but and then of course, if you start saying so, you will notice that I sometimes lose my train of thought,
Okay.
and I have to stop and think, and I can edit all of that out. So if you have to do that, by all means do. Don't panic. Don't think you're wasting anybody's time or anything like that. We'll just sit quietly until that train of thought comes back again.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I hope that wasn't too boring then.
No.
Here's the housekeeping.
When I used to work in a call centre, it was like, I just have to read you out the direct debit indemnity guarantee.
Oh,
I know that thing upside down, back to front, inside out. So when I get it now on calls, I'm like, oh my God, okay, if you must.
yeah. And you just switch off, don't you? And they say, do you agree? And you're like, I'm not actually quite sure, but yeah.
Yeah, I need to pay my bill. So yeah, sure, I agree.
I don't know what I've agreed to, but it's all right.
If I don't agree, what am I going to do? Call and pay
Yeah.
council tax every month? I don't think so.
So many people just trying to cover themselves all the time, aren't they?
Yeah, massively. I remember when me and my mum first started going to Florida, and that was about 20 years ago now. And we used to comment then on how much America was a blame society.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of suing people for anything and everything. And we weren't like that then.
No.
But over that 20 years, I feel like we've caught up with them.
Definitely. What always used to make me laugh about America as well on the TV when they advertise like paracetamol or, their equivalent, Tylenol or something like that.
Yeah.
All the terms and conditions and what to be aware of just to make sure they're not like sued in the same sort of vein that you were talking about then, like everyone covering their arse.
Yeah, it's crazy. But it's even crazier is how much we have caught up with. I don't think we're quite as bad as America, but we've definitely gone down that road a bit.
Yeah. Sue them.
Yeah, just sue them. It's everybody's just out to get what they can get, aren't they, for a quick buck
Oh,
sometimes.
yeah. That's why I send you a recording before I make it live so you can't sue me.
Yeah. A final refusal before it goes anywhere.
Yeah. I know you've been to America. I know you know how this shit works.
I haven't got the energy to sue anyone. They'd have to do something pretty bad for me to go down that road.
You just can't be bothered, can you? I'll tell you something funny, right? I took Chloe to Florida when she was about 8. Chloe, my daughter.
Yeah.
And we arrived late at the complex we were staying in. So we went into the room and I said, we're not going to do anything. We'll just unwind and go to sleep when we can. I put the telly on for her and immediately there was an advert on there and it was for like Cheerios, fruity Cheerios, the different colour ones.
Yeah.
And her mate from school, Molly, was in the advert floating in one of these Cheerios.
Oh my gosh.
We were both stood there like in silence going, is it like, well, I was thinking, is this jet lag or is this actually Molly?
That's so funny. How random.
I know. The colourful Cheerios. We didn't have them in the UK then, so it was even more of a interest. Right, I'm gonna introduce you.
Okay.
And I might change this later, but because I can add bits in later on if needs be. But okay, so today I'm joined by Lois Bates-Stubbs, nonetheless. I want a hyphen, actually, Lois. Lois is, you probably already know her, but Lois is the owner of LBS Virtual Services, and it's not just Lois anymore. It's a thriving VA agency with what she describes as a powerhouse team of 7. Bloody hell. Do you know what? As we go on to the listeners, you're going to think, oh, she must have been doing this years. You wait for it. So you started the business from a desk in the corner of your council flat bedroom. And in less than 3 years, it's grown into a multi-faceted, there's another hyphen there, agency supporting brilliant women to create businesses that feel clear, supported and sustainable. Sustainable is such a word. I think we mix it up so often with like single-use plastic, but it's so important to have that word in your repertoire as a business owner and think, can I do this long term? Is that going to give me long term pleasure? And so, anyway, these days, as well as being a VA or a high level VA, Lois is also just expanding currently into like coaching and consultancy, helping establish business owners, female business owners. And I love this next line. She's helping established female business owners step into their CEO role with more ease and confidence. She's also, I didn't know this next bit, a home educator. I knew the next bit though, a Disney lover. Oh my God, right, where do we start? Let's start from the beginning. So I'm thinking it's probably the 80s, your mum was pregnant. Should we go that far back or should we just start from
I mean, that's 41 years. That might take longer than we've got.
Let's go back to 2022 then. Talk to me about like what life, so 2022, how long ago was that? 3 years?
3
So
years.
talk to me about what life was like for you then.
If we went back, let's say dead on 3 years, so let's say we were in May 2022, things were pretty horrific for me, to be honest with you. I was stuck in a council flat that had never been intended to be our long-term home. It was a stopgap for me when I was a single mum to my son, and just through lifing as it does, we ended up there as a family of 4. And it was just a miserable place to be. The estate itself had got a lot rougher while we'd been living there.
Hang on, it had got rougher while you were living there.
Not because of us.
Oh, right, okay.
No, to clarify, around it had gone from being quite a nice family estate to not so much a nice family estate, shall we put it that way. The space itself was too small for us because in the back of my head I'd had that we wanted to move for a really long time. Things had started to get quite run down in the flat. Then monetarily we just didn't have the funds to do the work on it that was needed to be done. I was in a self-employed role, but it was a very weird self-employed role, you know, where the bigger companies take you on as self-employed and it's really solely for their benefit and not yours. It basically means they can pay you less than minimum wage and not give you any perks or benefits whatsoever. So that's where I was at. Money-wise, I worked out that I was earning around £7 an hour. Now, if you keep in mind that was 3 years ago, that was way below what the minimum wage is. And we were just really struggling. My head wasn't in a good space. My body wasn't in a good space. My career wasn't in a good space. It was just a really awful, dark time. So then, as we kind of thought things were pretty much as bad as they could get, my husband was made redundant. Now, he did get an okay payout from that because he'd been there for quite some time. But rather than doing the sensible thing with that money, we decided to book a holiday to Disney World.
Do you know, this is what I love about you, Lois, is you just grab life by the balls. You know, you want to do something, you're going to do it. And that will become apparent, even more apparent as we go on. But let's just go back a minute. What is it with these companies? I don't think I've heard this, that they claim to want a freelancer and they're only willing to pay low wage. I guess it's the same as these like things that we sometimes see as VAs, these in inverted commas job opportunities where people come into groups and say, we need you Monday to Friday, 9 till 5, £10 an hour, call answering, or, you know, something like that. You'll be self-employed, work remote. I guess it's similar to things like that. And I just delete them in our Facebook group or, you know, well, and delete the person. But I never thought it's because they're trying to get out of paying proper money, you know, as if fucking life isn't hard enough as it is. Ugh. And I didn't know you were a single parent. I thought the boy and I thought both of your children were your husbands, and well, I guess they are now, aren't they? Of course, but so Christ, you know, you had that struggle as well, and no doubt, you know, the guilt that comes with being a parent, and then getting them to school and any after school activities, and you mentioned just briefly that your mind wasn't in a place where you wanted it to be, and I think that is the catalyst for so many people to make that change in their life, to really assess everything. And you know, I can chuckle at you using your husband's redundancy money to go to Disneyland, but it was an opportunity. You would have used that money if you were financially okay to do the same thing. And it sounds to me that perhaps you were in a place then that you just needed to step back from it all. You needed to like think, oh, so what, you know, what's going on? Why isn't life great at the moment? And not many of us get that opportunity until it's too late, until our mental health is really affected and we're stuck in employment and we don't know how to get out. But I think what your story is going to tell people is it is possible. There is a way out. I love that when you asked to come on the podcast, and I love that, and I jumped on it. I wasn't even like shy about it. I jumped on it. I think I'd put it out into the universe for you to ask anyway. And I remember messaging you and saying, is there anything specific you'd like me to cover? And you just mentioned quarter on the floor. And I just think that's a brilliant phrase. But what is that? What's that got to do with? What is quarter on the floor? You know, it's not a Sophie Ellis-Bextor. Sophie Ellis-Bextor. There's another hyphen there. Tell me about quarter on the floor.
So yeah, quarter on the floor ties directly into where this story was going. We'd booked this holiday to Florida and off we went. As you said, some might argue that wasn't sensible, but some might say that was exactly what was needed to just step back from life as it was in that moment. And we were there for 2 weeks. And as much as I enjoyed it, there was that little voice in the back of my head the whole time saying, what have you done? Why have you spent all this money on a holiday when you could have spent it on X, Y, and Z that would have been a more sensible option? So every time I was experiencing pure joy, I kind of got pulled back down again into that feeling of that old life, of that dread. And the more the holiday went on, the more I realised that we were going back into the same situation. No money because we just spent it all at the back end of a holiday, not knowing when the next one would come, and just into this space that wasn't right for us. And I was all in my own head with these thoughts, and I was just walking through Disney and I looked down and there was a quarter on the floor. And I don't know what struck me in that moment, but I bent down, I picked it up, I held it so tightly in my hands, and I said out loud, I was on my own at that moment, I said out loud to myself, this will not be the last time I bring my kids to Disney World, and next time I come, I will have paid for it myself.
I love that. I love that. And it's not a small, insignificant thing to want to do, because we all know Disney is not cheap. You know, it's not like a week in Benidorm or a week at a Haven Park. It is not cheap. So making that promise to yourself, you're going to need some money for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that moment that I made that promise, I had no idea how that would happen. But being the kind of person I am, I just thought, okay, I've made that promise. Now what do I do? So as a small aside to what we were saying about the job I had, I was also running a bath bomb business at that time, which I loved. But because it was product based and I didn't have any money behind me, it was a drain on my finances. So I enjoyed doing it, but it was never going to, make me rich. So on that very day, I closed that business down, literally put it out on social media saying everything must go sale. And my best friend called me in Florida. She was like, what are you doing? Why are you closing your business down? Have you lost your mind? I said, no, I just need to change. I can't carry on like this. And I swear to you, so just to give some time context here, this was September by this point that we were in Florida. I said, I promise you by this time next year, I will have left my other job as well. So she said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. I've no idea. And she said, have you heard of being a virtual assistant? And I said, no, I haven't. What's one of them? So she told me a little bit about it and she said, you know what? Let me send you some links because I've been looking at this and I think it could really suit you. So she did, sure enough, that evening, send me links to your TikTok. She did send a couple of others as well, but yours...
No, she didn't. I'm cutting that bit out.
Hang on, it's going to a compliment, I promise you. Yours stood out above the others. So I was just like, okay, they can go away. I'm going to watch Catherine's videos. And I just binge watched for the rest of my holiday. Every evening that we got back to the room, I was just binge watching everything. And I was like, this is it. I can do this. I can absolutely do this beyond a shadow of a doubt. And so I got home and I can't remember the exact time frame, but it was within literal days. I bought your starter guide because you even mentioned to me it was the end of September, so I'd not left it that long, obviously. Got my business registered and away I went.
No, this shows so much tenacity, which is something that we need in business, but also so much confidence. But I had the privilege of I might cover this a little bit later, but I had the privilege of working a little bit more closely with Lois than I have the privilege of doing these days because of my health. But so a lot of you might be thinking, oh yeah, but Lois, she was confident, she just does things and da da da. So we'll cover that in a minute. If you're listening and you're thinking, yeah, but I've got this imposter syndrome, I can't do that. Lois is different, because you got to keep listening. Another thing that I go on about a lot is the algorithm. So a lot of aspiring VAs, I'm going off topic, but it's very important. A lot of aspiring VAs think that the VA world is oversaturated. But I think the fact that Lois in 2022, it's only 3 years ago, didn't or hadn't heard of a virtual assistant, didn't know anything about it, shows how the algorithm works. At that time, Lois's algorithm would probably have been filled with bath bombs, Disney, but it wasn't showing her anything to do with a virtual assistant because she'd not been looking at that. It hadn't come into her life in any way. And those that think that the VA world is oversaturated, it's because you've been searching for it. You've been looking at it. You've been talking about it. You've been listening to podcasts, blah, 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 blah. And so your phone or your computer is showing you every bloody article that's ever been written about virtual assistants. So I think that just that one little line that Lois has given us there is really important. So have I butted into your story?
Well, yes and no. That kind of brought it to a natural pause of what you were saying there, because I guess the next thing leads into, well, what you know very well as my period of self-doubt that came next.
Absolutely. So, I mean, let's talk about you enjoyed, like, you just watched all the TikToks and stuff like that around being a virtual assistant. But what were your initial thoughts? I mean, you said, I can do this. Were there any occasions where you thought, actually, I can?
Not in terms of my ability, but in terms of getting my name out, yes. Now, not initially, because when I throw myself into things, I do tend to do it without overthinking. And that's a good thing and a bad thing sometimes. So, but then obviously the reality of a situation hits, and I remember it just took me such a long time to get any momentum. I will hand on heart say that marketing is not a natural skill set of mine. I've learned and got better at it as time's gone on, but it's not something that came to me naturally. And I
okay, just to say at this point, Lois is lying, because if you've seen her marketing, before I say anything, don't go and connect with her on LinkedIn because VAs aren't her target market, but by all means follow her. Yeah, her marketing's brilliant. So Lois was lying then.
Well, thank you.
It is great.
Okay, it doesn't feel like a natural skill, shall we say. I will acknowledge I have got better at it, but I'm very impatient as well. Or again, I used to be. That's something that's changed. Now I've been in business a little while. I've learned more patience, but I was definitely someone who thought I would just start a business and overnight it would be a success. And Catherine, I know you know this. I used to be sad all the time of so-and-so only started 3 weeks ago and they're saying they're full and why isn't this happening for me? I didn't land my first client until the November, so it took a couple of months to actually get a client, and which now sounds ridiculous. But at the time I was just like, please give me some clients out of the sky. It was quite a slow burn for me until the April time of the next year, so of 2023. And I used to say, I don't know if this is for me. I don't know if I can make it work. Why isn't it happening for me? I had the worst case of comparisonitis. I was looking at what everybody else was doing. But I remember you saying to me once that not everybody is starting from the same point. Some people already have a big social media following for whatever reason. Some people have people within their old jobs that want to have a virtual assistant. Some people have family members that own businesses who want virtual assistants. Some people class full as 10 hours a week, so you can't base your story and your success off somebody else's. And I think that was like one of the most powerful things that kept me going, really, was to think, yeah, actually, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes of these people, and I'm on my own timeline. And so I persevered and persevered and persevered. But then when it took off, it skyrocketed, just exploded beyond what I ever could have imagined.
And I've done a podcast on comparisonitis. All the points you raise, I've covered in that podcast. You get, like you say, you get people that say, oh my God, I only started 2 hours ago and I'm at capacity. Okay, I'm massively exaggerating that, but I only started 3 months ago and I'm at capacity. But their capacity could be completely different to anybody else's. As Lois said, some people may only need to fill 2 hours a day. What's that? 2, 4, 6, 8. That's 10, charging £35. That's £350 a week. That might be all they need because perhaps their partner brings in enough money or anything like that. But comparisonitis really is difficult. And I giggled to myself because I've just found the screenshot I was looking for. I've started painting to help with my mindset a little bit. And so I've got another Instagram account where I put my paintings. And I was scrolling through the other day on that account and it said, Instagram, oh, hi, we noticed you painted today. Here are 30 reels of artists better than you. And I screenshot it because I thought, I want to try and word that with virtual assistants. It's almost like we scroll through these social media sites and the social media site is saying to us, oh, I heard you wanted to be a virtual assistant. Well, here's a load of people that have been at it less time than you and are so much better. It's just what we think and what you cannot make a judgment from seeing somebody else's. And I know that there were periods in Lois's evolution from that September till April where she did hold back. And perhaps, I think there was one occasion, if I remember rightly, that you'd not done anything in inverted commas or not put yourself out there for a few weeks. And because you'd had that imposter syndrome, because you'd been beating yourself up. And it just goes to show that even though Lois got a first client quite quick in 2 months, there was then that period that she didn't. And it is normal, but it can happen. Lois is now running an agency with 7 associates. It's like, what the hell? So how have you continued to grow after you got to capacity?
That is such a good question. And I almost feel like I don't really know the magic formula. I think for me, it gave me the confidence I needed to know that I could do it. And actually, I went from kind of having that one client to having more than I could handle really quickly. I should have kept the timeline on that. But if I had to guess, I would say, it picked up in the April. I had quit the job, by the way, by the June, so in less than my 12 months that I'd promised myself. And I think I want to say July time that I had to start taking on associates, so in less than a year. It's felt quite natural, but I think that's just because I'm so comfortable with what I'm doing and I'm enjoying it so much. The reality is that I've just kept going. I've adapted where I've needed to adapt. I have taken advice and ran with it where needed, but then also shaped that advice to match my own experience. I'm sure even as a VA trainer, you'll attest to that we give advice based on our experience and based on the experience of others around us, but everyone's living a different story. So I think learning that balance between I'll take this fantastic advice, I will apply it, and then sometimes I will tweak it to fit what is happening for me. that's where I've been really, and that's what I've done all the way through. And one big thing I would say about me, and everybody will have their own strength, it doesn't have to be this, but I think when you recognize what your own strength is, it's the USP really that everybody talks to you about. And if you're a new VA or an aspiring VA, you might think, what the heck is my USP? I used to think that. I don't know. I don't know what it is. And it's only quite recently really that it's come to me that in my case, it's genuine love. Like my whole being, my whole business runs on love. And that might not be what would smack you in the face as what you should call a USP in the beginning, but actually that's it, because that's why people come to me over and over again. I've had clients say, I came to you because I feel safe. I came to you because you make me feel protected.
Yes, yes, yes. It's for anybody that doesn't know, because I didn't, a USP is a unique selling point. So something that makes you unique. And a lot of people think that they need to niche to a sector to make them unique, and they don't. There is something unique about you. It can be anything. It doesn't need to be unique as in nobody else has got it, because there are lots of people like Lois that just emit this love for what they do. But it's also so important to show that you love what you do, because we are being trusted with business owners' livelihoods. This isn't a game. Being a virtual assistant isn't, something to just bring in some ridiculous amounts of money into your home. Not only does Lois love what she does, she doesn't do what she doesn't enjoy. She doesn't do or offer to do things that she can't do. She's always remained focused and true to herself and for the respect of her clients. And that helps to build that know, like, and trust, the three key ingredients for, getting potential clients within your audience. So I think, I might do a podcast on USP. I don't know how long I could talk about it, but finding your USP or that element of your personality. Now, I didn't, when you said that about your USP, we'd not even spoken about this. I thought you were going to say Disney, because even something like that would draw like-minded people in. You could talk about Disney. I'm thinking about, other listeners, not telling Lois how to run her business. But, you could talk about Disney, but you could also show the love for your business and the dedication you've got for it by sharing client testimonials. And it's such a good point and so important to show that we're here for the long haul, that our clients can trust us. And that also, that expands into having a website. You're showing that you're there, that you're committed to this business and therefore committed to those potential clients that come knocking on your door. But yeah, I feel that love from your posts.
Good. Then I'm doing my job well then.
Absolutely. And I always feel that they're talking to me, and it's something that I often say as well, that, we almost need to act like that fabulous radio presenter. You never feel that they're talking to a room full of millions of people and they just aren't going to notice you. You feel that they're talking to you, and you've perfected that.
Well, thank you. That's a huge compliment. And yeah, that has been the biggest thing that's kept my business going, definitely just staying true to that. And I would say, don't overthink it, because that's definitely what I did in the beginning. And I used to kind of wrap my brains for, I don't know what it is that I'm doing is unique, because I don't have a particular specialism in the VA world. Some people go off to focus on lawyers or whatever. And I used to think that that's what that meant. I used to think unique selling point meant a particular niche market or a particular niche skill. And it's not necessarily that. So I think sometimes trust your gut and go with something that is special or unique about you.
Mm. Yeah. And you get some people online that share their humour. I mean, I'm not going to mention who she is, but there's a VA, and I'm just waiting for her to have been in business a little bit longer, but I'm desperate to work with her because of the humour. Her humour is my kind of childish kind of, if somebody blows off, I still laugh like I'm 8 years old. But yeah, it's hard to do that when you're moving from, I know you weren't in a corporate role, but you'd been in roles like that where you had to represent somebody else. And it is hard to make that transition sometimes. And sometimes we're quite surprised with who we are. Do you think?
Oh, absolutely. And even now, I still struggle with that sometimes. I still have maybe not 1 foot, but half a foot in that kind of 9 to 5 corporate mentality. And I've not had a corporate job for over 10 years now. But it's, it leaves you with a bit of deep-seated trauma when you've been in that area for a long time and since you were very young and very impressionable.
So it's a question I've never asked before, and I quite like it because I think a lot of us will make that change where as we become more confident with our marketing, we find things out about ourselves that we didn't even know existed and that perhaps we didn't know that people would hone into. Like, have you found out things about yourself?
Absolutely, without a doubt. It's like holding up the most magnificent mirror, and when you attract your tribe, they just shout back at you in the most love-filled way to give you all these. They're not even compliments, really. It's just natural feedback. And you look at yourself and think, oh my God, it's like the best, shiniest version of yourself you could ever have imagined
Yeah.
being shown back to you from the people that are around you. And it's amazing. It makes you stop that self-doubt, everything that you've thought bad about yourself, you suddenly think, oh my God, look at what people think about me. That's amazing. I didn't even realize that thing about myself.
Evolution in the business is scary when you look back. I think it was, oh God, who was it? This morning I read on LinkedIn Sophie Lee. This morning on LinkedIn, she'd made a list, or was it Wendy Gannon?
They both did it today. Wendy and Sophie both did it.
But I've probably seen both of them. They've both made a list on LinkedIn separately of their achievements. And I commented on one of them and said, I think we need a recurring diary entry to remind us all to set time aside and write a list every 6 months, every 12 months, whatever it is, just to see how much and how far we've come, not just in skills, but in ourselves as well. Because I thought of a brilliant analogy, but when you're at work, in a 9 to 5 in a corporate environment, it's like you're at the bar and somebody's resting their pint on your head. But when you're out being self-employed, they're holding your pint for you instead. I don't know where my analogies come from.
I like it though. I love a good analogy.
Quite good, wasn't it? Yeah. I think we'll probably edit that bit out, and I'll probably sneak in another one. I'll Google. I'll ask GPT for one. But no, it's amazing what we can find out about ourselves. We're no longer shut away, It's not just about wearing jeans every day of the week and not just a Friday. It's about really being ourselves and being authentic to ourselves. And you get a lot of people that are diagnosed with neurodiversity, ADHD or autism or things like that. And they say, oh my God, I just understand myself now. Life feels so much easier. And that, I think, is very similar to running your own business because you enjoy life again. To me, it's like being a child at your happiest moment, and you can be yourself. You can do as you please, and you can be surrounded by people that enhance your life and not drain it. I wrote down a question while you were talking earlier because I just wanted to ask. I should have asked it earlier, so I'm sorry to jump, but you said when you were in Disneyland, that time when you picked up that quarter and everything, and you had days of dread thinking, I shouldn't have spent that money and, I've got to go back to the life that we've got and what have you. And I know you've been to Disney since then, as was your promise to yourself. Do you still feel the dread that, this holiday's going to be over in 2 weeks or whatever, and I've got to go back to work, in inverted commas? How do the holidays feel now?
So actually, I haven't been back to Disney yet. It's booked for this December, our first return.
I swear to God, you've been.
I went to Paris with Terry.
Same thing.
I've not taken the family yet, but that's this December. I have, however, been on holiday since, so I can still answer the question. That's fine. And no, absolutely not. There's not that, oh my God, what life am I going back to? There's not that feeling. And, don't get me wrong, we're all human. Sometimes you feel like, oh, I could still have another day off. But, you also know that there's no one there with a metaphorical gun to your head. And actually, if for your first day back, you want to start at 1 p.m. because you need a lie-in or a walk or 15 cups of coffee, you can. There's no one that's going to tell you can't.
Yeah.
And just that pressure being taken off is an absolute game changer.
Yeah, I think for anybody that is still employed, I think that there should be a phased return, after annual leave. Like if you've had long-term sick, because I was employed when I had my first and second surgery, I think, and I had a 10-week phased return. I think we should all have that after annual leave. But yeah, it's when you go on holiday as an employee, I used to find that the first couple of days were adjusting and becoming yourself again, just sort of the shoulders drop in. And then the last couple of days was the anxiety and the disappointment and the feeling of, sadness that it's all going to be over again. And you've got to just not be yourself for a while. Your days, there's controlled pushes and pulls on your days. And I never get that anymore. My partner looks forward to our holidays. And don't get me wrong, I very much look forward to our holidays as well. But I enjoy every day just the same. And I never get that dread. It's crazy. It's lovely, isn't it, to not have that disappointment.
Absolutely. To have a life that you're happy to go back to. And as you said, it doesn't mean that you don't long for and look forward to holidays. Of course we do. We all need a break, no matter how much we love our jobs and our lives. But the coming back and not having that dread is, yeah, it's amazing. And actually, it's funny that you've said that, because I think we do that human thing sometimes as well. We all do it where, the life we once dreamed of is now ours and it's now our normal. And I think sometimes it's really easy to forget just how bad that was, that feeling of being in a corporate role or any job really that you just hate, a life that's not serving you. Yeah, I'm glad you've reminded me of that really, because it's not something I've thought about for a little while.
No, and all you need to do, like I was scrolling through my saved reels on Instagram yesterday looking for something, and it was really quite interesting because I thought, so it's full of watercolour paintings at the moment because that's where my mind is now. Before that, it was stupid bloody videos that I could adapt to for my own Instagram, and then it was something else that I was interested in, and you can almost see your life as it was. And I expect it's the same if you go through your phone reel as well. You can see how life has evolved through the years of being in business, and you can look at sort of old photos and think, that was a bank holiday. I don't even know when bank holidays are anymore. But it's another thing as well. If any listeners are not yet VAs, it can become so easy not to take a break because you're doing something you enjoy. And it's not until you take that break that you realize you've been working so hard. So do have breaks. I have every Monday off and the Saturday and Sunday, obviously, as well. And I try and make sure I don't do anything because the breaks are so important. Right. I hope I don't overstep the mark now, but I'm going to be, you've been so open with us and I'm really grateful for that. But what is life like now? Do you feel comfortable talking about what life's like for you, your family, your health, stress levels, and what hours do you work?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. Now, I am a little bit of a workaholic, so I'm probably not the best benchmark for what life can look like as a VA. That's something else I learned about myself as well. I was never a workaholic before, but I love it. I don't think I could even tell you the exact amount of hours I do because a lot of how my business is set up is, well, it's very much not a 9 to 5. I don't sit down and go, okay, I'm going to start work. It's 9 o'clock and I'm going to finish work. It's 5 o'clock. Actual client hours, I now do 15 a week. Mm-hmm. I probably spend around 5 running my business and my team. And then the rest is on the outside stuff, the marketing, the social media, all of that kind of thing. But all of that fits around me and what I need to do, which is fabulous. I get up. Well, I still have to get up early because of the kids. But other than that, I can take lazy mornings if I want to. I can go out for a walk midday or out for a coffee with my mum. There's so much freedom there. It's unbelievable. We are in a lovely home that I honestly dreamt of. We've been here just over 18 months, like 2 years ago when we knew the time was coming that we could move. And it's like a dream come true, literally. We have a huge garden out the back, which, when we head into summer, changes our lives completely rather than being in a cramped little flat. We can afford things and, I wouldn't say I'm like filthy rich rolling in a bed of money stage, but I can afford to take the kids out at a weekend without thinking too much about it. We can afford to always have a holiday in the pipeline. We can afford to replace things that need replacing and wear things that we actually like rather than cheap things we just had to pick up on the run. Yeah, it's wonderful.
It does change things, doesn't it? I've often tried to explain it, and you've just been so much more succinct that you can buy things and do things without thinking about it too much. And that is absolutely huge. Being a single parent myself for many, many years, I know how that feels. That you see their mates wearing this, or, you hear that somebody's doing these swimming lessons and you're thinking, oh God, yeah, well, let's have a look to just see how much money we got spare every month. And I think I've still got my workings out. I used to do it every few months to see what was coming in and what was going out. I used to keep them just to see if I was doing better every year or worse. When I was employed, this was. I don't do that anymore. Now, I think that leads me on. And I know the listeners are going to want to know this. And this isn't to boast. If all the listeners that already know me, you know that money is not what I talk about when you become a VA, but it is important because you, the listeners, you need to know whether this is financially viable. Is it sustainable, as that key word? And is it real that you could quit your 9 till 5 and live comfortably as a VA? Now, let's remember that Lois is still a VA herself, but she's also got 7 associates. Now, Lois, I understand that you had to become VAT registered.
I did, yes.
And we've not actually yet been in business 3 years.
Yeah.
Are you happy to share why you became VAT registered?
Because I had to, because last year's turnover was just in excess of 96,000.
Fucking hell. You've just made this episode explicit. I have to tick whether there's explicit content. That is, I didn't know that. I knew that you were VAT registered. I didn't know what you'd turned over. Jesus Christ. So you've gone from £7 an hour to just under 100k a year in less than 3 years.
Yeah, it'd be 3 years in September that I started. So yeah, just less than 3 years.
Crazy. No wonder life has changed for you. It's just to think, can you appreciate how far you've come? Do you ever have moments of reflection where you doubt yourself in any way? Because you really shouldn't. I hope that you wake up every day and think, I'm pretty good at this.
I am very British, meaning I'm very self-deprecating. So I probably don't give myself as much of a pat on the back as I should do. But yes, I'm absolutely able to, when I can get out of my own head, sit back and go, wow, you really did that. And I hate this saying really, but I often think to myself, people like me don't do this, but they do, because I have.
Define me. Put that me in a circle. What elements of you did you feel don't deserve it?
Just being a very ordinary working class woman from the northwest of England. I just, it's not a life that people have. I could go on a whole other tangent here about the effects of disrupting your life like that in different ways, but I won't. We can save that for another conversation, perhaps. But yeah, it's very easy to just think you're not worthy of more when that's all you've known. And it's mind-blowing to think that I've grown a business of that magnitude. That's money that I didn't even know was possible 3 years ago. Like, that was money in my mind that the elite were on. Like, it's just, yeah, it blows my mind.
Yeah. And you said the word elite. That was ringing in my mind. It's either an ad or a post somewhere that, we're never told that you can run your own business when you're older, if you like. We do feel that that business is for those that we class as elite, those that have perhaps got a family member already in business. It's been handed down generations, or you need, a practical skill like building or something like that. But this is so achievable for everybody. And you're saying that, you're up north as well. The cost of living up north is not much different to down here, but jobs are scarce, and it's a lot different where you are than it is down south. And again, this is why being a virtual assistant, you can do it from anywhere. You charge what the average is now, £34 an hour, wherever you're located. Up north, Wales, Scotland, wherever, it opens up so much more for so many people that were financially restricted in the past. And I just think that's wonderful. And that's why I try and get the message out to so many people. I think your story is fantastic. And I think it's inspiring for people of so many walks of life.
Thank you. And yeah, you're right. It does. You said before it's not about the money, but it's a double-edged sword almost. It's not about the money, but it is about the money in a way. Like it's about the life that gives you. It's not really about the numbers, but it's about the impact of those numbers on your lifestyle when you've opened up your income ceiling like that. And now I believe the sky's the limit.
Absolutely. Money gives you less, you have less stress. You still got stresses in your life, obviously. If one of the kids is having a rough time with bullies or something like that, or your husband's not very well, anything, we still got stresses and pulls and things like that. But the money certainly does help take away other stresses.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you just said that about having other stresses, because just recently my husband unexpectedly lost his job. And, despite knowing that there is enough money coming into my business, it's still a big drop to our family income, So you do sort of go, oh, but there's a difference between, oh, we better do something and sort that out, and, oh my God, our whole life's going to fall apart because you've lost your job.
Yeah. And it will make it easier for him to hopefully find a job because there's not that pressure. Because you also see that sometimes in people's marketing where they really feel like they need a client because they haven't been marketing consistently. Or they've quit their job before they've got enough money coming in, and their marketing comes across as really quite desperate. And your husband, I assume, will be just a slightly little less stressed and a bit more relaxed about it, which probably helps.
So what's actually happened, and I'm so proud of him, I know this isn't really about him, but I'm going to put it out there anyway because I am really proud of him. My husband is Mr. Safe and Steady. He's very much, he likes what he knows and he knows what he likes. He doesn't really take a gamble. That's my job in the relationship.
Oh.
But actually, he feels so safe in knowing that we are comfortable enough for him to do this. He himself has decided to go self-employed.
What's he going to do?
So he just wants to be an Uber driver. That's all he
Nice.
wants to do. Mainly because he can then help a little bit more with the childcare, because for a while now I've been main breadwinner and main caregiver, which is quite a lot for anyone to have on the plate. So he decided that, he wants to do something where he can have the flexibility as well. He can work as much or as little as he likes. But interestingly, he's already started talking about like how he could expand on that. So it's like he's seen what I'm doing. He's like, okay, so Uber driver today, maybe an owner of a fleet of cars tomorrow, So it's really opened up his mindset, which is amazing.
Well, you've shown him that anything's achievable.
Yeah, exactly. Broken through that ceiling of what we see as our limits.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that, the sky's the limit. You now set your own income ceiling. You don't have to go back to university to retrain. You don't have to, sleep with the boss or anything like that. You are the boss. So you set your own income ceiling. I absolutely love it. Your story, as I said, is just really inspiring. And I'm grateful that you wanted to share it with us. When you popped up in my inbox, it was brilliant. As I said to you, I'd said to Rochelle that, I want Lois on the podcast. And I know she didn't tell you.
No, she didn't.
No, this cosmic ordering works,
Oh, it does. It does, without a doubt. You put it out to the universe and it comes.
Doesn't it ever? So are there plans to continue with your VA business?
Absolutely. The VA business is here to stay. I don't want to build the team a great deal further. I think maybe one, perhaps two more people, and that's going to be kind of how that stays. Yeah, I adore it. I'm not leaving it anytime soon.
Wonderful. And I love that there's no plans for a massive expansion of more and more associates, because that would take up so much more of your time, because there are elements of not micromanaging, but observing and supporting, aren't there, throughout their journey as well?
There are, yeah. And I know that obviously your kind of ideal audience isn't really thinking about that yet. But yeah, that's something to just bear in mind. As and when people do get to that point, you do have to factor in a little bit of people management when you start growing a team as well. And I'm very lucky that we've got a real family vibe between me and my team. And that's how I like it. And of course, every time you expand, there's that. You've got to work on that welcoming the other person in, and I don't want it to get too big where the group chat is too noisy and you can't
No.
all the things about all the people. I love to know what's going on with my team, when the birthdays are, when the kids' birthdays are, when and where they're going on holiday. In fact, I've just had one of the team this morning sending me pictures from her holiday because she's so excited. And I want to keep that. And I think if it got too big, I would start to lose that a little bit and be spread thin.
It all becomes overwhelming, doesn't it? Because you'd want to please everybody. Well, it's been an absolute joy. As I said briefly in the podcast, please don't overwhelm Lois with connection requests on LinkedIn. But if you hit her follow button, then you can have a look at what she's posting as and when. And yeah, it's been a delight. And I'm just disappointed that it took us this long to actually have a chat.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? Like, you've been such a big part of my journey. And I know I say it to you all the time, but I just wouldn't have done it without your guidance. And yeah, we've never had a sit down chat.
You're very gracious. And every time you tag me in a post or say it means a lot. It really does. Lois, it's been an absolute dream. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome, and thank you for having me.
If you're ready to reclaim your independence, then subscribe to this podcast because there is so much I'm going to give you. You've got to subscribe on your favourite channel, it says. What channel? I ain't going to be on the BBC, am I?